Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. Today we're talking more about the docks district and its inadequate sewage system. So the docks district, as was stated previously, was a add-on to the entirety of the merchant district moving south along the coastline, and very it was hastily built, and very little care was put into the creation of the sewage system. Now, normally a sewage system would be uh, the sewage would be funneled uh, a good distance from whatever city or port before it is dumped, usually into the ocean. They didn't have, of course, medieval cities didn't have any kind of sewage reclamation system or anything like that. And so the usual, especially for coastal systems, was to dump directly into the ocean. Cities that were upriver, a lot of times they would dump directly into the river, and sometimes both. London is a good example. It would dump a lot of times directly into the Thames if they weren't directly all the way down on the actual coastline. So you would have a lot of sewage runoff into these waters, but care was usually taken to keep it. An attempt was made to keep it away from the populace, or they would have another example of London. They would have basically street cleaners and sewage workers that would go around. It was their job to essentially shovel out these streets and sewers to prevent clogging and collection of waste and other uh, just terrible things. I mean, talk about job needs a union. And there was a guild for such things. But in the case of the docks district, they were just in a hurry to get it built, and so the sewage the actually dumps directly out into the Dragon Sea between the docks. And so it is a very nasty place. You don't want to uh, stay there. You don't want to linger there too long. The seawater actually reeks. There's these large pipes that are just dumping, especially during a rainstorm. There's just a deluge of water that comes out. High tide is especially bad. If there is a storm system that comes in and the water level rises, sometimes these pipes will get overflown with wave water, and the sewer will then backflush because of seawater coming in. The sewage system is just not very good, and but like I said, it was hastily built, and it is actually a mix of new construction and old construction. When they, or rather ancient construction, as it might be, when they were digging down to construct the hastily, I hesitate to use the word designed, because in a lot of cases, the only forethought that was put into this was to make sure that it goes downhill towards the coastline. So when they were digging down, they actually discovered ancient structures that had existed there previously. A lot of this was actually elven construction, and it seems that a lot of this construction either was originally built above ground and probably sunk. And so that may have happened during the cataclysm. It could have happened when, uh, you know, the um, when the planes collided and the Council of the 12 Elder Gods actually arrived on the known world in the Prime Plane. That is probably when that happened, because this was a time of great upheaval. There were earthquakes. There were um, uh, just massive upheaval, firestorms, and titanic waves, and um, you know deluge of rain, and then a changing of the climate, and it was mass pandemonium. And so a lot of these structures likely um, sunk into the earth, and they didn't go so far as to go all the way to what we would refer to as the mythic underworld. But they did sink far enough into the ground as to be covered. And so, in the construction of the sewers, they found some of this, and some of these areas were still relatively intact. And so they just decided to use them. Other areas in the sewers are actually sub-basements. There are taverns that had storage that was down in the sub basement, and a lot of times the owners, during the height of the docks district, would construct an entrance to the sewers, and these entrances to the sewers have functioned pretty much the same way continuously throughout the lifetime of the imperial port. These sewers are commonly were used by smugglers, pirates, things of that nature, in order to move cargo secretively. Now, a lot of the sewers, a lot of these areas are separated by grates or gates, and in most cases, especially in the modern age, these gates are either locked, or still, or they are stuck. If they weren't locked, they are just rusted iron stuck in place. There's just filthy muck around it, and they are very difficult to open. But in the days past, smugglers and pirates would actually make their way in through the pipes. Hopefully, they would have some way of unlocking the gates, or pick the locks, as the case may be. And they were able to move their smuggled cargo, sometimes slaves, sometimes pirated goods, what have you, through the sewer system. This also allowed them to bypass the imperial customs, tariffs, and tax, and things of that nature. They could just get away with and bring it into the city proper if they were careful. And there were many taverns that had these sub basements, taverns, and the occasional inn. Some warehouses would have sub basements. All of these gave access to the sewers to allow people to quickly and easily move cargo, which was not the intended purpose, but it happened nonetheless. Um, all the same, like I said, in the current age, they're used in a similar manner, but not as much by smugglers and pirates. Most smugglers and pirates in the current age would much rather deal with the thieves guild of the merchant district, and paying their tariffs and tax, or fees, if you want to use the correct nomenclature, I suppose. But sometimes it does happen, but they generally want to avoid the sewers, simply because in the modern age, the sewers are generally used mostly by the cult of the drowned child. And this is, in a lot of cases, how the cult gets the Gentil commoners into the populace, mostly undetected. And so they will sneak them in through these sewer pipes. There is said to be shrines in the sewers, where Gentil collect and worship their chaotic god, and so this is how they kind of filter them in. If somebody on the surface, such as a street urchin or a wayward prostitute or a sailor, is captured, knocked unconscious by Gentil commoners, shanghaied, if you will, and they will be generally brought down into the sewers to one of these shrines to go through the conversion ritual that will turn them into commoners and convert them to the cult of the drowned child's cause. The construction, there are three sets of construction in the sewers. There's the ancient elven ruins. There is of course, the new construction of the sewers themselves, and then there is signs of an even older construction, that most most of the scholars, not many scholars go down into the sewers, but most of the text that you will find, and a lot of this can be found either Well, mostly in the University District. If you're looking for plans, schematics of the Imperial Port, some of this may be noted that there is older construction, but there's a lot of argument as to exactly who this older construction belonged to, and you'll find a lot of that to the south. Um, uh, Mostly at the end of the main line down, the main line that would run beneath Dockers Street. Um, in this older construction, as I said, they are not necessarily confused, but there is contention in the writings between different scholars as to who it belongs to. Some believe that it may be elves. They see signs that it's possibly related to ancient sea elves, and sea elves in the known world have been extinct for a very long time. They no longer exist. So it is possible that this older construction may have been a part of the sea elves, and perhaps the high elves and wood elves had constructed their buildings to coincide with the sea elves. There's a lot of contention as to who it belongs to, and nobody's quite sure. So that is today's episode on the sewers of the Docks District. Next time we'll be starting to talk about the University District. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.